Can I truly run a serious law practice remotely? Well, I hear this question almost every single week, and most of the time, the lawyer asking it is really just looking for permission to get rid of either a high-rise lease or reduce overhead. But here's the cold truth. That's the wrong question to ask. The real question isn't about your commute. It's whether your practice is defensible, credible, and trustworthy, because the risk isn't necessarily the remote part. The risk is your architecture. Now, let me explain. If you're stitching together consumer-grade apps and hoping for the best, you're not truly building a modern firm. You're building potential liability. I'm Carlos Baradat, and this is the Virtual Jurist. And today, we're talking about why going paperless isn't enough, right? And how to build a remote law practice that holds up when it actually matters. Most lawyers still frame the remote office question as a lifestyle decision, but your clients don't experience it in that way. They experience your practice through confidence and trust. They don't care about marble lobbies anymore. They care about things like, is my information actually secure? Do you know where my evidence is? Can you explain clearly how my case is being handled? Judges and opposing counsel are no different. They don't care whether you're in a downtown suite or working from across the globe. They care whether you can make timely submissions, produce accurate and reliable evidence, and demonstrate that your discovery process is controlled, repeatable, and defensible. When a discovery issue hits the fan, I think it's in the cloud isn't the answer, it's professional failure. So here's the biggest misconception I see. Lawyers think that going remote is what puts them at risk. It isn't. Remote practice doesn't inherently cause problems or create more risk than a poorly managed brick and mortar office. It simply exposes weak controls faster. So if your workflows are improvised, if your tools are whatever was easiest to download, if your systems only make sense to you, you don't have a remote practice problem. You have a sloppy architecture problem. In other words, you optimize for convenience instead of competence. And in 2026, real credibility looks very different than it did 10 years ago. In 2026, it looks like being able to sit in a hearing or a client meeting and calmly explain how your practice works and know that explanation will hold up even if it's ever questioned. So that's how you earn trust, that's how you stay defensible, and that's how you run a serious remote practice. So how do you build a serious practice without that overhead, right? You stop thinking of the office as a place and start treating it as an operating environment. In a remote office, the office doesn't disappear, it just changes location. And that office is defined by three things. First, defensible systems. Your systems are your office now. So you need to know how information enters your practice, how it moves through it, and how it's preserved, and be able to explain that process clearly if it ever comes up. Second, ethical supervision. Remote work doesn't reduce your supervisory obligations. In fact, it increases them. Technology doesn't supervise itself. AI doesn't supervise itself. You are still responsible for how work is done, regardless of where it happens. So, third, intentional design. Remote practices fail when lawyers adopt tools casually. They succeed when tools are chosen deliberately because they are reliable, explainable, and defensible under scrutiny. So when those three things are in place, the practice remains serious, professional, and credible, regardless of where the work is actually performed. So, can lawyers truly run a serious practice without a physical office? Yes, absolutely. But only if we stop treating remote as a shortcut and start treating it as a professional design decision. Because the office doesn't disappear. What disappears is the illusion that an office is defined by walls, or furniture, or a street address. The office was never the space. It was the structure behind the work. It's how information is handled, how deadlines are tracked and met, how evidence is preserved and produced and explained, and whether you can articulate calmly and confidently how your office actually operates when it is questioned. That's the difference between working remotely and running a serious modern law office. This is exactly the conversation modern practices need to be having. This is the work I focus on at the Virtual Jurist. And if you're thinking about modernizing your practice or reducing overhead without losing credibility, this is the conversation worth having right now. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see all of you very soon.